Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, DevOps engineer Justin Dennison, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host Peter Van Rysdam. We've got the whole crew here today. Don Pizzette there above me. Don, how you doing?
I am doing great. A lot of really cool news this week, so I'm looking forward to today's episode.
Yeah, I noticed we all put in the same stories because we were all excited about the same stuff. So we'll be getting to a bunch of good stuff. And then we've got Daniel up there laughing. Daniel, how's it going over there?
Hey.
Nice. Good job pointing the right way. And Justin Dennison, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Nice and cool over there in that room today.
Yeah, today we'll see though. I tell you, I've already sweated through this shirt once.
I got in my car today to come to the studio, and I had it not in the garage. And when I turned it on, the temperature said 115.
That's hot.
That's
Yeah.
balmy.
Yeah. And I still came in. So
You're like, man, that's coat weather.
Dedication.
this is the time to be in the Pacific Northwest, and I believe that's where our guest is right now. Dr. James Stanger said we're wrapping up CompTIA month, and so we said let's get the Chief Technology Evangelist. How you doing, James?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Yeah, it's I think it's about 70 degrees here. So sorry, guys.
I hate you so
That
much.
is.
and it's I'm just looking out here and hardly a cloud in the sky, which for us is really unusual.
Oh, it sounds like a sunburn waiting to happen. I'm good.
It was like 90 degrees, 89 degrees, I think, yesterday, and people were freaking out. They thought, lawns were going to spontaneously catch on fire, that the Earth had, lost its orbit, was hurtling towards the sun.
Well, what's fascinating to me there is not everybody has central air because
I don't.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Ah, yep.
I can't imagine a world like that.
They ain't enough deodorant for me to live somewhere they central air.
It gets up to 90 one day a year there, so I think you'd be okay.
No, here's the thing, Peter. My house, you could hang meat in my house, and I still sweat. Yeah.
I'm that way.
Yeah,
I'm very much that way. Yeah.
So if it eclipsed 75 and I didn't have central air, I'd just be sitting there stewing,
That's
a
what
la
Justin's
Al
like.
Bundy, going, it's so hot.
That's why Justin had to move further south.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Listen, I also hate snow, so there's that.
His life is a series of bad
Yeah,
decisions.
Yeah.
he hates extremes apparently.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump into our first segment here and get to know a little bit more about Dr. Stanger.
Hey.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, James, you have 5 minutes. It's going to take 45 seconds to a minute to answer each question. If you go over that time, just to keep things moving along, Peter's going to buzz you in, and we're going to go to the next question. Peter's going to take the first one.
Yeah, so we looked back, and it was about a year. I think it was June 2019 where we had you on last time. So I'm just curious what you've been up to since that time.
Since June, a lot of travel, and then suddenly not in March. Who knew? So over the last year, there's been a lot of fun stuff. First of all, we've been taking a look at what online testing means, and so we've got online testing happening at CompTIA, and that's been great. Other things that have been happening as far as we've been taking a look at updating Security Plus, and done a lot of work on that. We've also been looking at what kind of content should we be creating? So we've been updating a lot of our content there. Over the RSA was an interesting thing to be attending in March. For example, it was about the last thing that I did other than come over to your place and shoot some videos. But so it's been a lot of video creation, a lot of going to international things. I think since I last saw you, I was in the UK a couple of times, spoke at let's see, what would that be? InfoSec, and also something called SITS UK. That's a service desk show, help desk people. Golly, I think since last time we talked, I think I've been in South Africa, I think India. So it's been a very busy year.
All right, so you've kind of alluded to some of the things maybe that have changed, but with COVID-19 kind of causing disruption and people maybe are losing their jobs, looking to change now as a transition. What things has CompTIA changed to maybe better serve those individuals?
One of the things, first of all, we did go to online testing. That's one of the first things that really was good to help support people who are quarantined in one way or other, worldwide. Another thing that I think has been interesting with COVID is we've been taking a look at the employment situation very carefully. We've seen, there have been IT people who have lost jobs because the company that they worked for, went under because they were in a position, the company for whatever reason was not in a position to work remotely. So that did happen. But we're also seeing there's still a lot of job requests out there for qualified IT people. So I'll use the word resilient. I won't say recession proof or COVID proof because nothing really is, but there's a certain amount of resilience that the IT profession has seen, in the sense that people still need IT people, in fact, more than ever before.
Now, James, I'm curious. You've been out here to the studios a few times, but as an evangelist, we normally run into you at conferences and other events all over the country. I know you travel all over the world extensively in what you do. So with all of that sidetracked, how are you adapting what you do to reach out and evangelize IT?
I don't get sleep much. Let's see. For example, last Friday at 11:30 my time, I gave a webinar in India, but that was easy because I was only done at 12:30 or 1 o'clock. In the previous weeks, given webinars to Australia, Africa, also India again, where so I'm up all hours. 2:30 to 4:30 in the morning. Sometimes at normal hours like 6 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes even during regular work hours. So a whole lot of connectivity. I've gotten to know Zoom real well. I've gotten to know all of the platforms you can think of. So
Now, James, here recently, we've seen a real push from CompTIA to update and create more security-based certifications. A lot of good stuff going on there. CISA Plus, Pentest Plus, and as you said, you got Security Plus coming out with new objectives. That being said, what do you see coming next from CompTIA? Do you think it's going to continue to push in that security sphere? Or are we going to see it from somewhere else?
Yeah, the security space is interesting to us. Obviously, we've got the update to Security Plus happening. We just updated CYSA Plus, and Pentest Plus is coming up. We've got a huge area of a number of certs, I should say, that we're updating in addition to that. So it's I think I can't remember how many products it is. It's about 4 or 5 products that will be, when I say products, certs, that will be updated over the next year or so. So pretty impressive. As far as new products in the security space, it's something we're looking very intently at. It's a question of what best serves the industry. So we're asking people in the industry, what are some areas that are particularly interesting and keen, and I can't promise you anything, can't really even discuss any details, but there are the questions that I often will ask, or the things that often come up with security pros. There are a lot of security pros out there that don't know a lot of programming very well. Let's just put it that way, and if you're a security worker who needs to be an auditor, right, and you need to audit, code or whatever, how is that done? Right, because an application really can't do that for you. So if you've been asked to review a bunch of Python code or something like that, how well do you need to know that? I'm not saying we're going to go into that at CompTIA at all. That's not my bailiwick. But I do see the need, if you're going to do pen testing and things, and if you're going to do even security analytics, understanding, getting deep into code is something that could be interesting as far as a career path is concerned. There's that. Management. What does it mean in terms of security management is another topic too.
So James, I just want to ask real quick. I know the last time we spoke, your office looked like a tornado had just run through. Did you just turn the camera around now? Is it facing the the wall?
It still does here. You've got what you've got here is a sheet that I've laid down here, right? And the chaos lies behind. Okay. There's the Sriachi bottle. There's the evil black 2001.
I feel like it's just a green screen behind that sheet that's projected.
Which one is fake? This is a whole Oz kind of situation. Right. Don't look behind the curtain. So.
Ignore that man behind the curtain. But I think we should talk about virtual backgrounds. I mean, this is me in Scotland here, and this is me kayaking in the Puget Sound.
It's like an Inception kind of thing going on.
For those of you Zeppelin fans, you'll have to tell us what album this is. So there you go. All right, enough of that.
Yeah, for those just listening, it's Giant's Causeway as the background there in Ireland. So
that's right, Northern Ireland.
It's your
Northern
in Northern Ireland, depending on who you ask. So
I mean, it could be Southern Ireland if you were asking.
This might be the most controversial episode ever.
I've been in the IRA this whole time. I just haven't told you guys. All right, well, let's talk about who got pwned this week, because I mentioned before, we had a situation where we all kind of sent in the same stories, and we were all sending in stories about this topic. So let's go ahead and talk about who got pwned.
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
Yeah!
All right, so the article that we are using for this one is from Slashdot. Many new details emerge about Twitter's breach. And just to bring you guys up to speed, for those that aren't aware, basically it was a handful of people, but the very, very high-profile people were hacked, including
President Barack Obama.
Barack Obama and candidate Joe Biden, as well as a few others. But how, Don, are accounts like this able to be hacked that easily?
All right, so this one is certainly a big deal, especially because of the high profileness of this, right? That it was just huge accounts, a former president, a current candidate. We talk about election tampering and all these different things that are going on. So to see a social media platform like that get compromised is really a big deal. The other thing is, I know I've been guilty of this over the years, where I've said, man, companies like Facebook and Twitter, where they have hundreds of millions of dollars invested in their IT infrastructure, they likely have the best security that we can offer today, right? I can't imagine somebody having better security than PayPal or, somebody like that. So to hear an organization gets breached, an organization that is fully funded, has all the resources in the world, that always makes me nervous. Because then I think as a little guy, as a small or medium business, how are you supposed to live up to that standard when even the big guys with hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, can't do it? So in this case, it boils down to the same type of attack that we see week after week, which looks to be social engineering. A couple of Twitter employees had their account credentials compromised. It allowed attackers to be able to log in and gain access through VPNs and other connections to be able to use an internal Twitter tool that would let them reset account passwords and take over the accounts. They then began posting a BitTorrent scam that if you sent them $1,000 in, I said BitTorrent, Bitcoin. If you send them $1,000 in Bitcoin, they will send you $2,000 back, which sounds like a great business opportunity to me. Many people did take advantage of it. I should say advantage, right? Many people got bilked by it. But at the end of the day, this one came down to social engineering.
When we talked with someone from Thycotic recently, we were talking about privileged access. I mean, is that the issue here, you think, that maybe too many people have access to this tool that can, change any account?
Not necessarily. I mean, your support people need to be able to provide support, right? So they need tools to be able to do things like reset passwords. But maybe what they shouldn't have had was you shouldn't be able to VPN in and access those tools. But James mentioned we're all starting to work from home now, and so maybe this is a tool that wasn't available via VPN before, and they opened it up.
The culture of a lot of Silicon Valley, and I'll lump Twitter in with that, is a culture that you're not working unless you're at work physically, right? And that's changed, obviously. And I think, the attack surface probably changed there. Do you know what I'm trying to say, guys? AWS, for example, they've only recently announced, hey, through the end of the year, people can actually work at home, like it's working at home is a new concept. I've kind of got a chip on my shoulder about this because I've been working at home or on a plane for 20 years now. And it's been doable for some time. And it's interesting to see that a cultural issue. And I'm supposing here, I'm just positing that a cultural issue of, okay, now you have to work from home to get in there has changed the attack surface. And that could be, even if it is, and even if I'm wrong, it's still an interesting idea that as a business condition changes, hey, everybody has to work from home due to quarantine, that it changes the attack surface.
Now, the part that makes me really curious is compromising Twitter's network in this way and gaining access to these high-profile accounts. That's like the holy grail of a hack. Like they really gained access to a ton of information, or at least had the potential to access a ton of information. So what strikes me as odd is that they threw it away so easily that I guess in the past they had specialized in taking over and selling accounts that had a low number of characters in the name. So like one account they mentioned was at and the number 6, or at and the letter W, that those are high value accounts that they can resell and make money on it. So the moment they did this widespread Bitcoin scam, it was immediately obvious that these accounts had been hacked. I mean, Bill Gates, his account was one that tweeted it out, and Joe Biden, obviously that was being watched very heavily. So immediately they lost that access. So it seems like it was thrown away, and that makes me think there's more to this story. Like the people that compromised the account likely would have given it more value.
Well, what's interesting too is there's a link to a Mashable article in this story on Slashdot that mentions that up to, I think, 8 accounts had all of the personal data downloaded from them, and that includes direct messages. So, we'll probably be seeing soon on WikiLeaks, who slid into Barack Obama's DMs over the last few years, as all that stuff is.
Well, they mentioned of those 8 accounts that none of those were verified accounts.
Okay.
So it wouldn't have been the good ones. It would be accounts like yours and mine, which
so it's probably just their friends or their
I was getting ready to say, I was
or-
like, we can't delete those? Uh-oh. So I think it's funny that like everybody's like, it's crazy how they gained access. I'm still mulling over people who sent $1,000 hoping to get $2,000 back.
I agree with Justin on that one. Like, how do you not see Bill Gates go, man, if you send me $1,000 in Bitcoin, Bill Gates don't need nobody's $1,000 in Bitcoin in order to give you $2,000 in Bitcoin.
Yeah,
if
matter
he
of
feels
fact,
like giving you Bitcoin, he could just do it.
Yeah, he could just give me money.
Which speaks at least to the public nature of this, right? If we're to assume that this is the full extent of the attack, in some ways, it has hallmarks of an attack that's not particularly sophisticated, if you know what I'm trying to say, right? There's that. The other thing, though, is you don't know what's going on underneath the surface here on this.
Supposedly, these were all fairly young individuals that were like doing this attack, right? Did I misread that?
No, it was
that's what coordinated, and it was a bunch of young folks. They feel, at least the story that we're seeing, right, that they had been talking about it on forums online before the attack happened.
Yeah, and I do like the transparency here too, because you're getting a lot of information. Twitter's being pretty open about sharing.
That's really
as they figure
smart.
stuff
It's
out.
a little bit different than some of the attacks we've seen in the past, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully we'll be hearing more in the coming weeks as well.
So the one individual who interacted I think he bought one of the names. Like he was like, "Come arrest me, I dare you," like more or less, and I was like, "Whatever, player, I'm good. You go ahead and get arrested. I'm gonna stay out of this."
You don't necessarily go to court right away.
Yeah. Like we're gonna take a detour. Where? It's off the coast of Florida. It's fine. We just get out here a little bit.
It's lovely.
The other thing that kind of comes up on this, though, is the idea of what kind of tools did they use? Now, Don, you were saying obviously it started via social engineering, which remains the number one really way that hackers seem to be getting in. I'm not saying it's the only way; it's the number one way, but it makes you wonder what particular tool was used. And some people are saying it was a real powerful, new, and unique one. Most of the time, the specific tool. So let's say Don is Twitter. I hack Don with a social engineering attack, and then I upload some form of malware. 90%, more than 90% of the time, it's just a variant of something very common. Like we're seeing, to change topics slightly, Emotet or Emotet, whatever you want to call that old banking trope has been around forever. That old banking malware.
Still going around.
Variants keep being used, and it's new and hot again. So. It's interesting to see that dynamic.
Does that mean I need to dust off my copy of Sub 7? Is that what it was?
Seriously, I don't think it would take much. I was talking to somebody, I think it was a Microsoft person, saying that really when it comes right down to it, you have a lot of beleaguered network and IT professionals, right, who are one step ahead or one step behind their networks trying to figure out what's going on. And the hackers are about in the same place. And they just find a little, it's kind of a game of inches here. They just find a little bit of an advantage, and then they get in, and all heck breaks loose.
Yeah. So now I protect my account through some advanced tooling, which is by remaining inactive. Then people will know if a post appears on my Twitter feed that it's obviously not me.
That's actually. There's something to be said for this, guys. There's something to be said for, choosing wisely what your activities are.
I would
Horrible
like
addiction.
I would like for Don to just post one random thing about Bitcoin, just to see if anybody says, "Hey, Don,
You know
See what
what? I
happens.
might post, if you give me $1,000, I'll teach you a valuable life lesson. Don't trust a too good deal.
good idea." I like
Do you
it.
remember a few years back, Julian Assange tweeted out a hash string, and that was it? Or it might not have been Julian Assange. It might have been
Who was that?
Don
Uh,
Spicer?
no, who's the one hiding in Russia?
Oh, Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden.
Snowden.
And people are like, what is it? What does it mean? What could it be? It must be a dead man's switch or something, or it's a key to another secret vault. And we never did find out. And I half believe that it was just him screwing around. Like, oh, I wonder what people will think.
It's the recipe for great guacamole.
Yeah, he was having a few vodkas with some of his new comrades and said, "Hey, watch this. I can put a headline on the New York Times in an hour." So I did it.
Yeah.
He was right. Hey, James, I want to ask you about just what's coming up with you. I know, obviously, you said travel's been changed for you and things like that, but I think ChannelCon is coming up virtually, right?
That's right. We got through August 4th and 6th is ChannelCon. It's a digital event, so we'll be doing some cool stuff there. Also, and that's August 4th through 6th. So that's help me out with my calendar. That's basically 2 weeks from now, right? Not next
I
week.
believe so. Yeah.
But next week is the CompTIA Partner Summit, where CompTIA partners in. So I'll be doing some stuff there as well. So it'll be a busy couple of weeks.
And what's going on after that? I know more people are getting comfortable doing the online virtual kind of events. So you have some of those going as well.
I do indeed. I've got some. Let's see. IBM India just asked me to do a presentation, so I'll be doing something with them. We've also got some things going on with some partners in Australia that we're looking to follow up on. We did a webinar here a couple of weeks ago, and it went over well, so we're going to continue that. Also, there's some additional conferences coming up in the fall. Let's see, not the fall. What is it? I've got so many, it's hard for me to choose. I guess I should have actually been prepared, huh?
You're like, they're in my files behind this curtain, and I can't get to them.
Yeah, that's it. Hold on, let me go look real quick.
I just want to put it out there. If you need someone to carry your luggage to like Australia or whatever, you can.
Yeah, no
just give me
kidding.
a
I
ring.
was planning, boy, it was going to be really cool this year because I was heading to various places, and all that is just way on hold for obvious.
Now you just get to wake up at 3 a.m. and call them.
That's right.
Just
That's
as
right.
fun. It's really just as fun.
Yeah, on the 30th, I'm doing the DISA JSP Cybersecurity Forum, where I'm talking about. I'll be talking about cybersecurity and emerging technology. Emerging technology is usually something that in 3 to 5 years, artificial intelligence will be, it's already here. We're using it, right? So how do we secure it? How do we use it in security? I'll be talking about that. Also some stuff with the NICE conference coming up. Let's see, but it's been fun. I recently, I worked with My Computer Career. They wanted somebody to do one of the keynotes. So that was really fun to talk to the new students, the new IT pros, and welcome them to the profession. So there's always more of that sort of thing going on too.
And what's the best place to kind of keep up with what you're doing? Are you active on Twitter or after this?
I'm relatively active on Twitter. So James Stanger, all one word, JAMES STANGER, James Stanger on Twitter. That's one way to get a hold of me. There's also, you can just Google it, CompTIA Stanger blog, and I do a lot of work there too. That's another way that we scale pretty well at CompTIA. Writing blog posts based on the conversations that I have with pros.
Really weird. I just bought a Twitter name at James Stanger. Unrelated, I'm pretty sure though, right?
Who knew? So $1,000, right?
Yeah, it was $1,000. I got $2,000 back and a Twitter handle.
Wow.
Congratulations.
It does work.
Yeah.
I knew it.
They said the economy was stagnant.
And now I'm about to wreak havoc with your public image.
He loves Ryan Gosling.
Like from now on, just call me the Stang.
Yeah.
Everybody. If you see me.
It's like Sting, but just Stang.
Yeah.
A friend of
it's past
mine
tense.
calls me the Stangulator, which is I don't want to think about.
That's worse.
Like, what am I, a 70s ripper?
I wouldn't have brought that up in a public forum.
Yeah. You don't need any help from me.
Ruining your own image. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, James, for taking the time. I mean, I feel less special now knowing that you'll wake up in the middle of the night for other people, but we're calling you during business hours. But thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Anytime, man.
All right, and we'll hopefully see you again soon. Next time you're down here recording some content when things get all better. But we're going to take a quick break, but we've got more Technado coming up right after this, so stay tuned.
An IT team that's upskilled and ready for any challenge. How do you get there? Join thousands of other IT leaders and let IT Pro TV be your resource. With more than 4,000 hours of IT training, IT Pro TV gives your team a resource to go to. The most popular vendors: CompTIA, Microsoft, Cisco, Linux, Apple, AWS, and more. The hottest tech, cloud, security, networking, and more. What's next for your organization? Whether it's an implementation, cloud migration, more workstation support, or new technology, you're covered. With IT Pro TV, you can rest easy. Your team will always be ready. It's binge-worthy learning for IT pros. Get a free trial for your team today. Visit www.itpro.tv/business.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pezet, and thank you so much to Dr. James Stanger for joining us there and letting us know what's going on and giving his take on the entire Twitter issue there. But we've got some more news to get to, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Our first article is actually from Cloudflare's blog at blog.cloudflare.com. Cloudflare outage on July 17th, 2020. Great headline there from them. But basically, they had an issue and infected a lot of people, right? I mean,
yes.
You can see how far their tentacles stretch. Yes, Justin.
You know what I love about this title?
What's that?
I know exactly what the article's about. It's not sensationalized. It's just
That's good.
There's an outage and it happened this day.
It's clickbait.
Clickbait.
And you click on it and it's actually about new figurines being displayed at Pottery Barn or something.
Amber Heard hit a Cloudflare server and it went down.
Anyway, what happened?
All right, I know this is a sidetrack. I've seen some of those headlines. Who the hell is Amber Heard?
She's an actress.
Johnny
that beat
Depp's
up Johnny
ex.
Depp.
Yeah, that she accused him of domestic violence.
And he accused her back.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's a lot of
Who
fun.
the hell is
Well,
Amber
there we go.
Heard?
So Cloudflare, this has actually been a great week for full disclosure, because Twitter has been giving out a lot of information about their issue, and Cloudflare did the same, and apparently Amber Heard is also. So, but in the case of Cloudflare, they had an outage. The outage was less than 30 minutes, so it wasn't that long, but it was a near total outage, and it gave us a chance to see how many networks are protected by Cloudflare, because you started seeing sites go offline all across the internet. Some sites that were a little ironic, like the Down Detector website, which apparently had a lot of their stuff behind Cloudflare, they went down. So now we need a Down Detector detector. Tumblr went offline, which I think accounts for like 40% of the porn downloads on the planet.
Does Tumblr still exist? I thought they outlawed porn on Tumblr.
I don't know.
They didn't outlaw Tumblr.
No, I know they didn't outlaw Tumblr,
What'd you
but
think
like,
that would ruin their business
most of the
model?
usage on Tumblr was
You
for
thought
pornography.
removing the cornerstone from that?
Yeah, you're like
the rest
crumble.
topple?
So if you just kick the side out this building's still there.
You're probably right.
So they did say what happened, right? This wasn't a hack. They were actually doing some routine maintenance, and they have a massive network with POPs, or point of presences, all over the globe. And so as they were doing work in one area, they rerouted traffic. And the plan was to reroute a portion of that traffic through Atlanta, but the rule they wrote had a mistake in it, which resulted in all of their traffic being routed through Atlanta. Now, Cloudflare frequently talks about how they can move over 6 terabits of data per second through their network. They can do that, but not entirely through Atlanta, which is what caused their environment to go down. They recognized it pretty quick and fixed it. The total outage was 27 minutes, so the world did not end. People didn't go insane, but it gave us one of those brief moments of visibility where you see how important a service Cloudflare is.
That was almost as bad of an outage as Johnny Depp had when Amber Heard threw a rake across.
Unconscious for 27 minutes.
So when I saw it was a bad configuration, for some reason, so when we did the Iron Tech thing and you were like, deploy a LAMP or a PHP application, and I was like, I'm going with Nginx because I know it. And then I forgot everything I know about it. Because it was under, if somebody was like, bro, you took down all the internet, fix it. Who am I? What is my name? I work here? Uh-oh.
Responding under pressure is a challenging thing, and that's where like reboots come in really handy because it gives you a minute to breathe and think while you're waiting on something to reboot.
While you're generating your resume.
Does that printer still
What's
work?
the closest printer?
Yeah.
By the way, I looked it up, and Amber Heard was in Aquaman. She was in
Some movie with Nick Cage, wasn't she? I think that's where I saw her.
Magic Mike XXL. But what
That's where
Don
you know
will
her.
probably know her from is
Magic Mike
she was
XXL.
in Zombieland. She was 406, the girl that lived across the
Oh,
hall.
that's right.
Oh, all right. I do remember 406.
Yeah.
all right,
That
then.
is Amber Heard. But
Now we know.
Cloudflare is
and
a
knowing
thing,
is half
too.
the battle.
Her never back down fame.
All right. From ZDNet.com, Google disables Windows 10 RAM reduction in Chrome. The cost to CPU performance of a Windows 10 memory-saving feature is too great to keep, says Chromium developers. And this is something I think we talked about just a few weeks ago about it was Windows that found a way to reduce the amount of RAM that Chrome was using, but
Yeah.
they're saying they need it now?
You know, I think most of us here on the show use Google Chrome pretty regular. And as a browser, even if you open it to like a blank tab with no other tabs open, it will consume a ton of memory. I think the lowest I've ever seen mine had is about 1 gig of RAM, and it'll creep up 4 or 5 gigs sometimes, an insane amount of RAM for just a web browser. So Microsoft had introduced a new feature in the Windows API to try and help with that, to relieve some of it. And they found where they were getting like a 25, 26% reduction in RAM, which in my opinion isn't that great, but at least it was better than nothing. Well, Google went to implement it, and now Google's saying, no, we're not going to do that. And what they found was there was a bit of a trade-off that while, yes, they were able to reduce the amount of RAM, it was in exchange for consuming more CPU power. So now your system is bogging down on the CPU side, which actually creates a little more power draw. And so they had to choose, and they chose to consume extra memory instead. Now, personally, I usually have a lot of extra CPU cycles laying around. You know, my CPU is barely taxed, so I would have gone the other way on that one, but I think Google is trying to plan for the most common denominator.
Well, my question is, it says in the article, it says Chromium engineers had decided to turn that feature off by default in Chrome 85. Does that mean that you could turn it back on? Or developers can somehow? I guess because it's open source, right?
It's hard to say right now because it's all pushed out to like version 83, which doesn't come out for another month or something. Or actually 85.
Yeah,
I guess.
85 is what this is. Yeah.
When there were times when I was doing some scientific computing, that was always the trade-off. Like, okay, well, I can have this run with lower RAM, but I'm going to have to churn CPU cycles, or sometimes like input-output, like disk reads. Here's the thing. You say 25% is not a lot. So I wonder if this has impact on Electron apps, which are based on that. Because there's times where I close Electron apps and they're like, my computer will go, recovered 8 gigabytes of RAM. At which point 25% is 2 gigabytes of RAM. So I would probably go with giving up some CPU for RAM savings, because there are times where I'm at like 89% or 93% because I have Chrome and Visual Studio Code open and they're just chewing through it.
Yeah, I know a lot of these vendors are super focused on laptop battery life, so they don't want to consume extra CPU because it's going to drain the battery faster. But honestly, I don't need 10 hours of battery life on my laptop. 2 or 3 hours is plenty for me because I'm typically plugged in, and even on a plane ride, I'm not going to get more than a handful of hours anyway. So I don't care about
Chrome
that.
really on the plane too. Well, I guess if you're
Maybe. Yeah.
you're paying $1,000 for the Wi-Fi.
I was going to say, do you think that like solid state batteries is going to change that game at all?
So, all right, let me ask you guys this, because it seems like every month I see an article, researchers at MIT find new battery technology that'll revolutionize blah, blah, blah. And then a month later, they find a new technology every 2 months, and yet batteries haven't changed in 40 years.
Well, they keep abandoning that one because they find the new one, so they stop working on it.
I can provide some insight on this. When I was in grad school, like batteries and capacitors and stuff were a big play because in renewable energy resources, like during the day, if you have solar panels, if you can't feed it back into the grid, you need to store it somewhere, otherwise it's wasted. So batteries, people are like, oh, look, this is this new battery technology. And you go, oh, well, that's awesome. When is that going to be available? Well, here's the thing. We can make it in a lab under these really great conditions, and it lasts for 2 minutes. And then it's dead. But then it's 2 minutes. It's amazing.
So it's BS.
And, well, I say that because I used to work on light-emitting devices, OLED devices. And they were like, look, this has great power efficiency, but they don't last but a day. And so we had trouble with like getting them to last or being able to be manufactured on a large scale. So battery technology is kind of a weird thing. honestly, right now, best bang for your buck still lithium-ion based.
Here's this.
Carry 2 laptops.
Here's this ultra efficient battery that only needs to be charged once per year, but generates 15 tons in waste per year.
Yeah. Yeah. And you thought you had to change out your remote batteries a lot? Listen, if you ain't got at least 6 change-outs, you're not going to make it through a day.
Yeah, we got this super new efficient battery. It lasts forever. It's made of baby seal eyes.
And some of those battery technologies that they describe are very what are called energy dense. So a very small amount can hold a bunch of energy, but then they're non-rechargeable. So you can't run their... Anyway, carry on. Y'all don't care about science. Whatever.
Science is dumb.
The whole format of the show.
Even though science is the whole purpose we're here because of technology, but whatever. Carry on. What's the next article, Peter?
I thought we were here to catch up on Amber Heard.
Yeah, exactly.
She's clubbing baby seals with Johnny Depp's crutches.
Justin wants to move on because there's a battery running his fan in that room.
There's not. It's plugged in.
And the time is running out.
battery.
Time's running out very quickly. No, it's battery backup. We've got a storm going on, so
if the power goes out, I'm not staying in this room.
Well,
Because it's already 6,000 degrees in here.
The lock
And that's
is
with the
electric.
fan and the air conditioning.
You are staying in that room because the magnetic lock.
Oh, no, I ain't.
disengage.
You know what I always wondered? So people get locked in rooms, and I go, hey, but you're on the side with the hinge pins.
Yeah.
How are you locked in that room? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, just
What's a
pop the...
hinge pin?
Yeah, well, okay, you deserve to be locked in a
Yeah, you take the hinge pin off and you use it to pick the lock.
Exactly. Well, what you
this
do is you
door.
take the
It's
hinge
got-
pin out and you build a small furnace and you get an anvil and you hammer out a lockpick set.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It really does.
All right, our next article is from CNN.com. A court strikes down the EU-US Data Privacy Pact, leaving companies in the lurch. So which companies are in the lurch, the U.S. ones or the European ones?
The U.S. ones. This one's a total debacle. So, when GDPR was passed, it was significantly more strict than anything that we have here in the United States. And in the United States, privacy protection has been left up to the states. And some states, like the state of California, have worked to be in line with GDPR. You could argue that California is practically an EU nation. But there's plenty of other states in the U.S. that haven't taken step one to protecting user privacy. So our laws are all over the place. And so to try and help with that, there was something called the EU-US Privacy Shield that was created. It was a agreement between the two organizations to be able to say, yes, we don't have a national law for this, but these companies will adhere to GDPR's regulations, and that way European user data will be protected here in the United States. So this was kind of a stopgap for companies. Well, now a EU court has stricken down that agreement, so it's no longer valid, and so now there is no agreement, which means that technically PII, personally identifiable information for European Union citizens, is not allowed to be transported to the United States because the privacy guarantees and controls are not there. And the only thing stopping this from being a total disaster is that they did leave one clause in place, which is the one that says companies are allowed to enter into contracts, and the contracts can state the terms of privacy protections. And so that's what's stopping. So, for example, like IT Pro TV has a number of customers in Europe, and they can continue to do business with those customers because they have a contract that says, yes, we'll protect the data. Here's how we're going to protect it. Here's all the different things that we do on an individual contract basis. That's still okay. But this big umbrella thing, the EU-US Privacy Shield, that you used to just be able to be a member of, now that's gone. You've really got to do contractual protections.
So what I'm hearing is there's a lot more paperwork.
Yes, that is absolutely accurate.
Oh, man, that sucks.
Yep.
Well, I don't want to be any part of that.
And neither does the end user. So really, at that point, it means that privacy protections are going to go by the wayside. People just aren't going to care.
I just assume that everything's the Wild West out there when it comes to privacy, so I just try not to put anything personal out there as much as I possibly can.
Yeah. And if it is personal, I make sure that my face and any identifying marks are not part of the picture.
That's right. I put my Juggalo makeup on.
Yeah. So facial recognition can't figure me out. I cover all my tattoos.
I definitely wouldn't appear on a podcast and use my real name.
Yeah, absolutely not.
But it's not my personal stuff. It's just talking.
Did you know the judge in this case was Amber Heard?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Winona Judd.
Yeah. Amber Heard was hitting Winona Judd with Johnny Depp.
Just swinging him like a Louis slug.
I think we were talking about Winona Judd off the air.
We were.
Oh, yeah. No.
That callback doesn't work.
That's for us.
Yeah, it works for
That
us.
was, yeah, that joke's for us, people.
Yeah, yeah. We got to get our giggles somehow.
Give us some time.
Yeah.
All right.
She puts the wino in Winona.
There you go. All right, let's move on now to our next article from Comparatech.com. Zero Logs VPN exposes millions of logs, including user passwords, and claims data is anonymous. UFO VPN exposed millions of log files about users of its service, including their accounts and IP addresses, despite claiming it keeps no logs. So that's the one big thing that got me from this article is that, no, we don't keep any logs. Oh, by the way, our logs.
And what's crazy is not only do they keep logs in Elasticsearch. So it's like a highly searchable version of logs. So,
Oops.
Oopsie daisy indeed.
Yeah, so this provider, UFO, they're based out of Hong Kong, which has been in the news quite a bit since the Chinese security laws kicked in place. So that means that users in Hong Kong are more concerned about privacy than ever before. Their service, I guess in their defense, was marketed as a way for you to be able to get access to Netflix and other regionally blocked services. So, I mean, I guess you could say we're not solving a human rights dilemma here by gaining access to Netflix. But they did claim, like many VPN providers, that they do not maintain logs. And then a security researcher stumbled across a exposed database, a database that had no password, that stored usernames and passwords in plain text, that stored browsing history, session data, IP addresses, all sorts of information. So, one, the data is absolutely not anonymous. Two, they absolutely maintain logs. And three, they are negligent enough that they expose this stuff to the public. And they mentioned that they had a change in employees, and so their firewall rules weren't updated. They took the database offline, and like 2 days later, the security researcher found it posted in a different place, which meant they just swap the IP, and so it was still exposed. And it just goes to show that when you buy like a VPN service or something that makes a claim that they're log-free, you're putting a lot of trust in them. And oftentimes you have no idea who these people are. And if you're only paying $40 a year, don't expect some company to fight against a government for you for $40 a year. That's not going to happen.
Well, they're making the rest of the money selling your data, right?
Yeah.
I assume.
I imagine. Oh, actually, they did say that was one of the things. They have a free service.
Oh, I was being sarcastic.
And if you use the free service, they were injecting ads into web pages and so on as you were browsing the internet. So, they did have several different revenue models.
And I did see that there was a separate report then afterwards by VPN Mentor that found 6 more VPN services that were doing basically the same thing. Rabbit VPN, Fast VPN, Flash VPN, Free VPN, which, you get what you pay for, Super VPN, and Secure VPN, which also, they're connected by a common developer. So that's,
yeah.
Yeah.
I think, the way you need to look at this stuff right now is that public VPN services like these, they're okay if you're just trying to get access to Netflix. But if you're trying to work out some kind of global insurrection or overcome an evil empire, they're not enough to protect your information.
That's when you use Pornhub's VPN, I believe.
Yeah, one of the best.
Yeah, because they're a real reputable set of individuals.
Does Pornhub have a VPN service?
Yes.
They really do?
reported that a couple. I'm not going to search that.
Yeah.
I thought
So,
we reported that like a year
while
ago.
you're searching that, can you also double check the spelling of bestiality?
Oddly enough, I looked through some of those logs and found that Amber Heard's search history included how to hit your geriatric husband.
Proper grip for a baseball bat.
Yeah, you choke up.
This was 2018. Pornhub launched VPN Hub, a VPN service with free unlimited bandwidth.
Well, I mean, when you're streaming video, I guess you got to have some good bandwidth.
All right.
Snuff films don't stream themselves.
Well,
Moving on.
I don't know what is.
Mute the mic. All right, let's go over to our next article here, which is from ZDNet.com. Cloud provider stopped ransomware attack, but had to pay the ransom demand anyway. Blackbaud said it had to pay a ransom demand to ensure hackers would delete data they stole from its network. But, I mean, how are you even confirming that? Because half the time people pay ransoms and don't get their data back.
Yeah.
So how do you confirm that, well, we're going to pay you so you can delete that?
The headline's a little misleading. They didn't have to do anything. They just chose to. So what happened was there was a ransomware attack. They actually did have IT infrastructure in place. They had backups. And so they were able to, once they realized they were under attack, they were able to recover their systems without paying the ransom. The problem was this particular ransomware, not only was it encrypting machines, but it was exfiltrating data out. And so once they had kicked the attackers out, cleaned their machines, restored their services, the attackers said, hey, we have your data and we're going to leak it online unless you pay us. And so they ended up having to pay a ransom, but I don't like saying they had to pay the ransom because, again, this comes down to trust. You're trusting that this group of hackers that just illegally compromised your network and stole your data, that they're going to delete the data and not post it somewhere else? That's ridiculous.
That's just the cost of doing business, Don. That's how it works now.
That's also that's like the hacker's code of ethics, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I can break all the laws I want to, getting to a position where I can strong arm somebody into giving me money. But if they give me money, I got to play by the rules.
Now, I do believe that a lot of criminals do have a bit of a code of behavior, right? Like honor among thieves type thing.
Yeah.
But I think that is really dependent on whether your fellow conspirators can stab you or not, right?
Yes.
But when you're online and you're anonymous, then you'll take that ransom money and then still turn around and sell the database because now you can just double your revenues, right? Like, why not? Like, it makes absolutely no sense to pay the ransom, especially if you were able to recover your systems. They are not any safer today for having done it. The scary part is that Blackbaud, if you're not familiar with them, is a company that specializes in software for schools. So they do a lot of stuff for K through 12 institutions, for teachers delivering lessons and so on, and they haven't disclosed what information it is that was taken. So we don't really know, like, was this information on kids, which it very well could be.
Don, I'm just trying to think of it from all the angles here. If they say, if I pay the ransom, you could still expose the data, okay. But is it kind of like that idea where if they don't pay the ransom and something gets leaked and it's very sensitive and that leads to maybe something else, they're culpable?
Oh, they're just
is that
reducing their liability, maybe?
Right.
By
It's
doing
like
that?
it's probably going to be a payout from insurance anyway, right?
Yeah. You can't, like, the company, Blackbaud in this case, they can't be held liable for something the hackers do with the data.
Okay.
They can be liable for being negligent and letting the hackers in, but not, like, if somebody breaks into your house and steals a gun and then they go and murder somebody else with it, like, you could be held negligible for not securing your firearm, but you wouldn't be, like, guilty of murder. So that's an extreme analogy, I guess. Well, I'm swinging for the fences here.
Apparently, this has never happened to me because, again, they're like, well, Justin, you didn't have it locked down and cemented in concrete.
Yeah.
You're going to prison.
Yeah. Welcome to prison.
And,
I should point out at this point that we are not lawyers, and none of this advice is binding.
It's not advice.
Anyway.
It's speculation.
yeah.
And,
None of this wild speculation.
cyber insurance, if your company doesn't have it or, your organization, it is something that insurance companies have latched onto. It is very beneficial. You certainly want to research into it. No matter how great, like what we've learned from Twitter, no matter how great your security posture is, there's creative ways that attackers get into a network, and cyber insurance is how you protect from that.
Well, and just some more speculation on this topic. Maybe the fact that they had a breach, they knew that their cyber insurance was going to go up anyway, because if they have to report that, maybe the insurance company says, hey, you're not doing everything you need to do, so we're going to increase your premium. So, hey, they're going to pay the ransom anyway, so why not just let them pay the ransom too, just to, hedge our bets.
And I do want to echo what Peter said. We're not lawyers, but however, if you do claim that you took legal advice from us, we're just going to play the previous part of this podcast, and no one's going to go, why did you take you took good advice from them?
We'll play what happened in between the break. You're done.
You just won your appeal. These guys said, there's your problem right there. All right, well, if you want to have some more fun tomorrow, if you're watching this the day this comes out on Thursday, tomorrow Justin will be hosting a CompTIA version of Spin It to Win It. Justin, you all ready and excited for that?
Peter, I'm going to stop you right there. I thought it was next week.
Is it?
It's the 31st.
Dang it, what day is it?
It's the 21st.
Hey, on the 31st...
I think it's the 31st.
No, you're right.
We should really reach out to somebody in marketing. Who might
so
be
how
on
do
top
I
of this.
know more about marketing than Peter?
Because you're on that show. So.
I don't care. I didn't know I was on it until the last week.
Look, my boss, who listens to this and will call me out on this, wrote me like 2 weeks ago saying, hey, make sure you tell them that Spin It to Win It's this week. So
Well, then
Yeah.
it's all her
I'm gonna
fault.
go ahead and
Yeah,
throw
we're
it
gonna
under
need
the
to
bus.
see that.
I'll find
You're
the-
gonna. I'm gonna fill out paperwork to get that in triplicate to see that you can actually.
Yeah, I've
show
got
it,
the
yeah.
carbon copy of it right here. So, yeah. So anyway, that's the 31st. So you can head over still to IT Pro TV, sign up for a free account, and you can watch all the fun there. Actually, our guest last week, who we mentioned, is going to be on as one of the contestants, and I think we've got a couple other members that are contestants as well. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. Also, we've got some webinars coming up. Now, this one is happening the same day that this podcast comes out, which is Thursday, July 23rd, with Daniel Lowry talking about how to secure your future with CompTIA Certs, a guide to CompTIA certifications, their security certification specifically, and that is Thursday, July 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 Pacific time. You're also going to be doing a little bit of live hacking from the Pentest cert, right?
Yes, it's called Pentest Plus.
Thank you.
It's going to be intense.
Yeah.
Peter's
Ran out of
having
words.
trouble with words.
Yeah.
And dates. I'm still just trying to figure out where I am and what time it is.
In his defense, he got hammered by Amber Heard. She nailed it.
He was walking along, minding his own business. Pow! Right there,
Yeah,
right there.
doctors thought I had a concussion, so I've been up for like 36 hours. 'cause they don't want
Yeah,
me to
we've
go
been
to
hitting
sleep.
him with smelling salts. He finally roused up, and we were like, podcast time.
Yeah, so I tried to take her dog from her, and she got all mad. So,
Yeah.
all right. While you're on that internet, head over to go.itpro.tv/technado. There you can get a coupon code for 30% off your membership. Also a 7-day free trial, and you can request a demo for your team. So if you've got a group, you can find out all the cool features that are available to you there. That's over at go.itpro.tv/technado. All right, guys, we got through that one. I got worried a little bit there.
I was never worried.
No doubts.
No, the one thing I'm worried about is we're going to pick the wrong person to have a running set of jokes about, and then I guess that'll be the last Technado.
It was fun, guys.
Think about the ratings, though.
I know, right?
Posthumously, our podcast ratings go through the roof.
But then I
Nicolas
think
Cage
about all of
ends
the
Technado.
crazy, more or less lies that people tell and present them as truth.
Well, that's why we're socially distancing now, so no one can take us out at once. Like, we're not allowed to fly together anymore
Yeah.
or be in the same car.
Or the same city as Amber Heard.
Yeah. Well, that's
I'll
my
tell you what,
restraining order, and that's my fault.
She hit Peter, and I was scared for his life.
Yeah. Crushed his ocular cavity.
Yep.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. I have titanium.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm talking about. We're presenting this as truth, like many other people do. And
Well, I think aspects of that statement were true.
yeah,
They're just
like,
not
like
together.
Peter has an ocular socket, which
There
is a true
right.
thing.
It was crushed.
It has been shattered.
There is a person called Amber Heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that's all
Oh
the facts
man,
we said.
you know what? We have just made a good statement for not having friends.
I'm being told by our lawyers that we are wrapping up this episode. So let's go ahead and say thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Dr. Stanger, who is, I'm sure, distancing himself from this podcast as we speak. And thanks all of you for watching. We'll see you next week on Technado with Don Pizzette.